So, what do you think ODD stands for anyway? Organization of Dolts and Dunderheads? Ostensibly doing drugs? Overly dumb donkey poop? Let's figure it out in the comments. Yes, it's more flat earth crap again. Apparently the video I debunked was too old, and this one is so much better. Watch the latest one, they said. The latest one has totally undeniable proof of the flat earth. You won't do it. You're a coward. Okay, flatheads, here we are. We'll see how well your so-called theory holds up now.
So apparently it's a pear-shaped oblate spheroid. Sounds fine to me, but there seems to be issues when NASA puts out images of the Earth.
They're always perfect spheres, and some of these are claimed to be single shots.
The Earth is an oblate spheroid, but it isn't that oblate. If you had a model of the Earth 2 feet across, the equatorial bulge would be just 2 millimeters, and the difference between the top of Mount Everest and the bottom of the Marianas Trench would be less than the depth of the ridges of your fingerprint. It would be one of the most perfect spheres you'd ever seen, and engineers would be impressed with your ability to make it to such extreme tolerances.
Not only that, but the images that NASA gives us are never really consistent. Here's 3 separate NASA images of the Earth, and North America is a different size on each one.
Because they're taken at different altitudes, moron! At lower altitudes, you see less of the hemisphere. Come on, just get a globe and try it yourself. When you get close enough to the globe at the right position, you can easily recreate that middle picture.
NASA photoshops their images using CGI composites.
In 2002, Blue Marble 2.0, NASA's Rob Simon made this. And it had wide appeal too. For example, it ended up as the default background on the iPhone. So the land layer here comes from
the Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectroradiometer aboard Terra.
So it's taken from an imaging spectroradiometer. In other words, they didn't say it was CGI. So thanks again for lying about what NASA has said, like you flatheads always do. But it's really helpful of you to put the proof that you lied right in your own video.
Went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
But what does any of this have to do with the Earth being flat? We have plenty of full disc pictures of the Earth taken from space. Last time I showed you footage from a Dish Network channel that was up for years where they stuck a camera onto one of their geosynchronous satellites and beamed down live images every single day for a decade until the camera failed. And despite the lies you people have told about it, it was not CGI. They didn't have the technology to do that when the satellite was launched, and they somehow managed to make all the clouds move around exactly the way they were on Earth at the time, given all the unpredictable weather patterns. And what did you do? You lied and said the clouds weren't moving when they were. They moved exactly as much as you'd expect over the 3-hour period represented by the clip. You've been shown proof, and your only response is to lie.
Speaking of oblate spheroids and perfect spheres, both of them would have detectable curvature, right? Well, it's not showing up for anyone who tries to find it.
It shows up for everyone who tries to find it. Get on a plane going over an ocean and you'll see it clear as day.
This photo defies the curvature of Earth.
Because there are mountains in the way, you moron. Hey, remember last time when I found the curvature in one of your own photos that you said wasn't there? Idiots.
So if I'm understanding this correctly,
you're not.
The top of that mountain range should be 2,682.1755 feet below the curvature.
No, because that line that you keep thinking is the horizon is the base of the mountain range. You can't see the horizon because the mountains are obscuring it. Idiot!
Here is a picture of the Bolivian salt flats.
Now who's using Photoshops? Here's a picture of what the Salar de Uyuni salt flats really looks like.
This place is so flat that it defies the curvature of the Earth.
Really? Well, let's look at the picture I just showed, which is high resolution and covers a wide area. According to you, the salt flats are the flattest place on Earth, so flat it defies the curvature. Let's draw a line at the edge and see if you're right about that. Guess what? You're not. This is a straight line from one edge to the next, and sometimes the salt flats go over the line, and sometimes they go under. They are not completely flat like you're pretending. So whether or not you see curvature will just depend on where your camera happens to be pointing at the time. By the way, the salt flats are completely surrounded by mountains. So why don't we see that in this picture? If there's no curvature, if, like you claimed earlier, mountains won't drop below the horizon, shouldn't there be mountains everywhere you look? Yet there aren't. This next bit is the horizon always rises to A level crap I thoroughly debunked last time. I thought they were supposed to have fixed their problems.
Let's watch another high-altitude balloon.
Okay, let's. Hey, look! There's the curvature, plain as day.
It's always flat when you're not using a fisheye lens on the camera.
You're the one using a distorted lens, liar! See how your horizon is actually a bit concave? And look at that lens flare. It should be straight, moving in towards the center of the frame. It isn't because of the lens distortion. The footage I just showed was shot with GoPro cameras. GoPro cameras do not have fisheye lenses! Besides, we covered the fisheye lens claim last time too. They only make a convex line at the top of the frame. They make it concave towards the bottom like yours, and with no distortion in the middle. So how come when we see the curvature, we're still seeing at the bottom when it shouldn't be there?
A popular belief that is constantly used as proof for the globe is boats disappearing behind the horizon.
We've seen that. There were videos of it. And just earlier I showed you mountains that had disappeared below the horizon.
But this is actually just an optical illusion. Humans can only see so far. But with super zoom cameras like the Nikon P900, or even just a telescope or some binoculars, you can bring back ships and boats that have appeared to go over the supposed curve of the Earth.
But then why can we see the mast? Why can we see the top of the mountain? Do you even think about your claims for 2 seconds? What about this picture of the Chicago skyline from across Lake Michigan? Where's the rest of Chicago? I don't remember Chicago being flooded, so it must be the curvature of the Earth. You cherry-pick distorted pictures that appear to support your idiotic flat Earth theory and ignore the thousands upon thousands of pictures easily available to you with a Google image search that show you to be wrong. You are a liar. Okay, skipping things I've already debunked, like the claim about water being level and the crepuscular rays, they're just bleated out again with no response or even acknowledgement of people's refutations. So their ignorance and dishonesty is now willful.
It seems as if it's rising and setting, but it's just coming and going. It's the sun as well as the moon that do the moving across the sky. The Earth is not moving whatsoever.
So then how do you explain time zones?
Now let's talk about the moon. Here's a normal moon in the night sky. We are told that the moon is 238,000 miles away. The funny thing is that the Tycho crater, which is said to only be 53 miles in radius, is perfectly visible to us from Earth at this distance.
Well, why wouldn't it be? And here's a question. How come Tycho appears at the top of the moon when seen from Australia or South America or Africa? Here's a picture of it from Sydney. And here it is over Johannesburg. Why would this happen? And by the way, shouldn't you be able to see the ice wall? Show us a picture of the ice wall, lame brain!
So I tried to figure out a way to test if we would be able to see the Tycho crater from a distance of 238,000 miles away. I went to Google Earth, and I made a 53-mile radius in Texas, as you can see here. And you can also do this yourself. Then I zoomed out as far as I could, and unfortunately it only goes to 39,000 miles away, but it still makes the point in my opinion. You can barely see the 53-mile radius from 39,000 miles away. If I were to go another 200,000 miles out, we surely would not be able to see the red circle anymore.
Moron! Have you never heard of viewing angle? You're trying to compare something to how the human eye would see it, but you're comparing it to pictures of the moon that were zoomed in, making the moon appear much bigger than it does to the naked eye. Go outside and look up sometime. See how well you can actually see Tycho without binoculars or a telescope or something, just with the naked eye. Take a real look. Why don't you look at what the actual viewing angle of the human eye is and match that? Maybe because you know it wouldn't give you the result that you want?
Why would we ever see the moon during the day?
Covered to death. The angles work out. Here's a question for you. If the Earth is flat, how come some people can see the moon and other people can't at different times? Goes back to that time zone thing you can never seem to explain.
But we do know two things for sure. The Earth is a level plane and it doesn't move at all.
Then how can we see stellar parallax? Do you even know what that is?
How do lunar eclipses work, you ask? Well, certainly not like we are told.
We see the shadow of Earth on the moon and it appears to be round, therefore we live on a ball. But whatever is causing the shadow on the moon, we don't even know.
Yes, we do. It's easy to figure out with basic trigonometry. They figured that out something like 2,500 years ago, if not much earlier.
This rare type of eclipse will occur while the sun is still up. Now, how is the Earth causing the shadow on the moon if the sun is still up?
Because again, moron, it's really, really, really far away. Again, the distances and angles work, and anyone with the basic knowledge of trigonometry can confirm that.
When you look at the time-lapse videos of the stars, they all move uniformly. This might make sense on a spinning globe if the only thing we were doing was spinning. However, mainstream science not only tells us that the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, but we are also told that we orbit around the Sun at 67,000 miles per hour.
And as I just said, we can see the parallax from that.
In addition to that, our solar system, Earth and all, rolls around the center of the galaxy at 490,000 miles per hour. And finally, the entire Milky Way galaxy is traveling through space at over 1 million miles per hour. Keep in mind that none of these motions have ever been proven.
Yes, they have. They've been measured directly using Doppler shifts.
Not even Earth's supposed rotation.
Last time, I linked to a report which gave information from satellite data that showed the gravitational wake caused by both the rotation of the Earth and its revolution around the Sun. Now, how much information was updated between the last video I debunked years ago and this one? None at all!
With all of these motions considered, is this what we would see night after night for thousands of years? No.
You do realize, for example, that Polaris wasn't the North Star 2,000 years ago, right? The ancient Greeks observed that the polar region was devoid of stars. And by the way, if you're on the equator, you can see both the North Star and the Southern Cross, and see them rotate around both the North and South poles. If the Earth were flat, why would we be able to see both ends of the rotational axis?
They also tell us that the stars are distant suns, but they look like orbs of dancing energy when you zoom in on them with a high-power zoom camera.
Oh, for crap's sake, you don't even know about atmospheric distortion? Did you go to school, ever?
Now let's talk about planets. People always ask me, why is Earth the only planet that's flat? And it's simple, really. It's because Earth is not a planet. Planets were known to the ancients as wandering stars. Let's have a look at the etymology of the word.
Argument from etymology is a fallacy.
You can find the planets of the universe encoded in our weekdays. Sunday is sun. Monday is moon. Tuesday is Mars.
Yes, we know all of this. What does this prove other than some kooky thing that ancient people believed? They thought the planets were gods, too. You left that bit out, didn't you?
And there is much debate online as to whether Uranus and Neptune should even be considered.
No, there isn't. Stop lying. And you're evading the question anyway. You don't get to win by worming around with definitions. Let me put it this way. How come Earth is the only celestial body of a certain size that isn't a sphere? There! Now try to worm your way around that one, liars!
Now, just like pictures of the Earth, you can't find any real pictures of the so-called solar system.
Here's what you get when you do a search for real pictures of the solar system. A bunch of cartoons.
The argument is that we just can't go out far enough and take pictures of the solar system, bro. It's not that simple. Well, I beg to differ.
NASA claims to have the Hubble telescope taking real pictures of distant galaxies.
Look, moron! The Hubble orbits the Earth. It can take pictures of galaxies from a distance because it is a distance from those galaxies. It can't take a picture of our solar system from a distance because it's not a distance from our solar system. Does this really need to be explained?
We have to stop looking up at the lights in the sky for answers because we are not one of those lights. The Earth is special and so are you.
You're nothing special. You're a moron. That's why you need to cling to this. You have nothing else to recommend yourself, so you have to make up all of this anti-science crap to feel like you're so much better. Well, you're not. When your claims are so idiotic, they can be refuted with basic trigonometry. You're nothing but a pathetic, deranged ignoramus.
Conveniently enough, in 1959, the Antarctic Treaty was established, just 1 year after NASA was created.
And the treaty puts Antarctica off limits to normal people. You can only go if you and your reasons are approved by the proper authorities.
People have flown over it, you morons. Go contact a travel agent and ask for a direct flight from Santiago to Perth. There aren't many of them, but there are a few of them every year, and they fly almost directly over the South Pole. I mean, come on, idiot! There's even a YouTube channel dedicated to Antarctic flights! For smeg's sake, did you do any research? I'm just gonna play one more bit from this moron.
The ruling class is scared of your potential. This is why people are required to take vaccines and suckered into taking flu shots. This is why they spray chemicals above our heads all day, every day. Chemtrails have several purposes, and some include slow kill of not only the populations, but the soil too, so we can't grow food in the future. All the food will have to come from corporations with employees that have to wear hazmat suits while applying the chemicals that you're going to eat. Nestle wants to own water.
And that should tell you everything you need to know about odd reality. All odd, no reality at all. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, why not hit like and subscribe? And to make sure I can produce more, support this channel on Patreon and Maker Support. And check out all the other great content here, like this video selected especially for you.